Hey everybody, I'm Kendall.
And I'm Jono.
And we're by Gearheads.
And today we're going to talk about the new SRAM Eagle 70 and SRAM Eagle 90 group sets.
That's right. If you want to learn everything about these new drivetrains and check out the product info, you can do that up here.
Yep, and down here we have a chapter timestamp so you can jump around in the video.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. All right, so first of all, these are in the transmission lineup. So people may be familiar with the XX, XO, and GX axis transmission group sets. These are now the mechanical lower tier versions of those. But I say lower tier, but they still perform fantastic. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we're gonna run through all the specs and kind of talk about what makes them special.
First things first, since they're in the T-type ecosystem, they're now cross-compatible, meaning your cassettes and your chains from SRAM 70, 90, all the way up through the electronic group sets, everything's cross-compatible with all the other shifters and derailleurs.
Yeah, exactly. So we were actually both running Axis transmission group sets on our bike. We took those derailleurs off and the shifters off, yep. And we went to these new mechanical group sets to try out how they compare to those. Me personally, I was running a combo of the XO and GX Axis transmission.
Yep.
And what was on yours?
I was doing the same.
Same thing. So yeah, we just have a really good, history of riding those for the past year plus. So I think we'll be able to really nail down how these mechanical versions compare to those.
I really appreciate the cross-compatibility aspect. It's really nice if you're upgrading an existing drivetrain, right? You can just slap on the nicer parts when you need to. Or if you're traveling and you need to replace a part here and there, you can use something from one of the other lines if you have to in a pinch.
Yeah, and if you're somewhat of a weight weenie, you don't want to have like the lower, heavier cassette. You could have an XO or XX cassette paired with that mechanical derailleur, and it's kind of like a best of both worlds if you're a mechanical fanboy. Me personally, I have the XO cassette with that 90 series derailleur, and I think it shifts really good. I'd say the same feeling as my GX transmission, which is pretty cool. I do want to touch on the cross compatibility thing. I have word that Yeti is actually going to make some packages where they will come with a 90 series derailleur and then have a XO crank, XO chain, XO cassette paired with it. So a lot of manufacturers are going to be doing that mixing and matching, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think another big advantage of this new system is that, yes, they're mechanical, but they are direct mount now. So you don't have a derailleur hanger, which I think is a big benefit and makes setup a lot easier as well.
So we got to say, your frame does have to be UDH compatible in order to run the Eagle 70 and Eagle 90 derailleurs.
That's right, and you should make sure that your frame has cable routing, as some carbon frames no longer include that.
Correct, yeah. Some higher tier carbons are going away from that, so gotta think about it.
Gotta check on those two things. So we mentioned easier setup, but what that really means is that there's no longer limit screws and there's no longer a B-gap adjustment screw, which is huge.
Like you said, there are no B-gap, there's no limits, but there is the barrel adjust on the shifter side of the system, so that's the only spot where you're gonna have adjustability.
Right, and then as far as setup goes, it's gonna be really similar to the electronic transmission system. You go on SRAM's website, you plug in your bike, it tells you the chain length that you need, it tells you your setup cog, you have to put a little Allen key in there while you're doing the setup, tells you which one of those to use. Super easy, very straightforward, could do it at home.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive seeing how to set it up. We both got to witness that, then we did it ourselves, and it was just effortless. I mean, we're not mechanics ourselves really, but the average home mechanic can definitely get this set up, no problem.
Yeah, the hardest part was probably just running the
cable
through my bike.
Exactly. It's been a minute since I did that.
Yeah. What about rebuildability?
So the Eagle 90 is going to be the most rebuildable derailleur that SRAM offers. They have a list of spare parts, so if you're an aggressive rider and you're always smashing your derailleur on things, I'd say go with the mechanical Eagle 90 because you can get those small replaceable parts. The Eagle 70, it also offers some parts, but just not as many as the 90. So if you're a hardcore, not the best line choosing rider, maybe go with the Eagle 90.
It's so easy to replace the cage, and I think that's going to be the big benefit for people. It's like you literally just unscrew it and you can put a new one on. I think the new part is under $100.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you can actually get the nicer end cages from the GX, XO, and XX. So if you want to go for a lighter weight build, you can go with the Eagle 90 and then go with the XX cage, and you're going to have a pretty light mechanical setup.
That's right.
I do want to note that on the Eagle 70, they don't offer a replaceable cage, but you can use the cage that is on the parts list for the Eagle 90 derailleurs.
Yeah, so if you need a new cage, you just use the 90 one.
Yeah, exactly. And on setup, just one more note there, SRAM does recommend using aluminum ferrules on the cable ends, so that there's less stretch. So I think that might be a little finicky thing. If you use plastic ones, they might degrade over time and the shifting can become poor. So just make note of that, use aluminum ferrules.
Yeah, those plastic ones can kink easily, and so that's why it's better to use the metal.
Yep.
The shifters for both series are also brand new and have a great feel to them.
Yeah, I think that takes us to riding impressions, and let's talk about the differences.
Yeah, get into shifting performance.
Yep. So you had the Eagle 70 on yours. It was the dual click, and it also had the integrated bar mount.
Yep. It took a second for me to get it all set up right because it's not matchmaker and it has that round clamp. I had to move my brake position in a little bit. I would say that if you're running Maven brakes, I would consider the 90 as it integrates with matchmaker a little bit better. The 70 definitely was a little bit trickier and my thumb was awfully close to it when I was gripping my handlebars. But besides that, it was great. It has a dual shift mechanism if you're going up the cassette, so you can do 2 gears at once that way. And if you're going down the cassette, it's one at a time.
Yeah, single click. And they do offer single click or the double click option in both the Eagle 90 and Eagle 70 shifters.
And that's only for the analog drivetrains, if you want to call it that. They make e-bike specific drivetrains.
Which is the single click.
Which is going to be single click in both directions only.
So you have to run the single click if you're on an e-bike, or else you could run into an exploding chain. Can't shift too many times and then have all that power. It's not a good combo.
Makes sense.
Yeah. As you mentioned, on the Eagle 90, it does have the matchmaker, which we're used to with other levers. So it's really easy to find a perfect position with your brake levers. I'm running levels right now, and it has like 3 positions where you can mount on the matchmaker, which makes it great. I know you, like you mentioned, you had some issues with thumb rubbing your shifter, but I did not. So for $20 more, I think that's what it is, you can upgrade to that Eagle 90. If you have an Eagle 70 setup, I would personally do that.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think the matchmaker ecosystem works really well. They've been doing that for a long time. People are used to it, right? And it definitely just makes cockpit setup a little bit easier. So I definitely felt like the shifting on these is more reminiscent of the electronic transmission group sets than of the mechanical Eagle group sets of old. I really thought it was super responsive. I was shifting under load with no problems, and I just really liked the shifting feel.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely. It definitely feels just like my GX, but without the fun robot noises. And I'd say the speed of it is, I'd say the same. I think we should do a little comparison test here with the shift down and up the cassette and time it to see how the speed is different, but I think they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think the electronic might even be a touch slower because that one will wait until it senses there's a good time to shift, whereas the mechanical is right when you hit the button, it goes. But you get the benefit of the new cassettes and chains where the chain actually can ride on 2 gears at once, which just makes it a lot smoother between cogs, right? Rather than having that big clunk. That X-Sync tech just allows the chain to slide right onto that next cog without that big clunk.
Yeah, and it prevents wear and tear on your cassette, so your cassette and chain, everything's going to last longer, which you'd love to see.
Losing less material over time.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about compatibility here. People may want to run their older GX or XO shifter mechanical with the new transmission, and that is something you cannot do. So don't try. The ratios are totally different, so it's not going to work. And same if you're trying to do a Molex gravel setup with this new derailleur in the rear. It's just not going to work with the Apex 12-speed shifters because the ratio, again, is different.
That's right. And SRAM also is introducing a new dropper lever that fits in really nicely with this whole ecosystem. So definitely check that one out too.
Yeah, ergos are about the same on each side, which is really nice.
Yep. People always seem to want to know about weights. Should we talk about weights?
We should talk about the weights. So on my Eagle 90, my derailleur was 395 grams. The shifter was 135 grams.
Okay, so small weight penalty then for the SRAM 70 series. You're looking at a 415 gram derailleur alongside a 145 gram shifter.
Yeah, it's not crazy different.
Yeah.
But I'd go for that shifter of the Eagle 90, regardless of what derailleur you go with.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Now is the time we're going to talk about who this drivetrain is for.
That's right, yeah. I think these do a great job of bringing the entry-level customer into the T-Type ecosystem.
And it gives people the opportunity to upgrade their drivetrains like it did in the previous Eagle.
That's right, yeah. Everything's cross-compatible now.
I think that the Eagle 90 is great for riders who are really hard on their equipment, like this guy. He's always breaking derailleurs, and I think having the ability to replace those small parts without having to buy a whole new derailleur, it's just a big benefit there. So I think Eagle 90 for hard riders.
Yep.
Hard on their equipment riders.
Yep. I agree. And then I think another great use case for it is just people who don't want to rely on batteries. My wife, for example, loves to mountain bike, but doesn't want to remember to charge her bike.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nice option for her. And now we're using all the new chains and cassettes still.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have wanted this mechanical drivetrain for a while now, and now they have the technology and benefit of the transmission coming down to this mechanical level. And it's going to be great for a lot of riders, and I'd say specifically people who may be bikepacking long endurance races like the Tour Divide. You don't have to worry about another battery you have to charge. This is just going to work for the 1,000+ miles of riding, and you have to worry about that.
Yeah, bikepackers do not like batteries.
No.
Doesn't work. Well, that's a wrap on the new SRAM 70 and 90 series drivetrains.
Sure is. And if you have any questions about the Eagle 90 or Eagle 70 series group sets, you can reach out to our Gearheads. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you out there.
See ya.
You.